Hey guys, hello and welcome. I hope you guys are all doing really well. I feel like it's been a little while since I filmed one of these, so I wanted to today. Right over here I have Petroselinum crispum, or the curly-leafed parsley. There's several different categories of parsley. They're all biennial plants, generally speaking, and they all have different leaf forms. Some of them are used for their roots, which are perfectly edible. They have a taproot. Those are the root parsleys. You also get curly leaf parsleys, which are these ones. They have trifoliate, tripinnate leaves that have these really nice undulating margins, super showy. And then you also have flat leaf parsleys. Flat leaf parsleys closely resemble cilantro. They have a little bit more of a strong, almost peppery flavor to them, and they're a little bit taller. But they all have very similar growth requirements. So the first thing I want to say is you're gonna want to grow these guys. They're a member of the Apiaceae family too, by the way. So that includes dills, it includes anise, celery, celeriac, those types of plants, carrots too. Uh, Another thing I really want to say about parsleys, I completely just lost my train of thought. I'm actually out here in the front yard with my rabbit, and I see him just kind of rummaging around in my bottles. Just a sec. It's gonna show you guys. Maybe you guys can see him. Oh, goodbye. So yeah, sorry for that distraction there. So parsleys are native to Mediterranean climates. They're native to Corsica, as well as Sardinia, lots of the Italian peninsula, a little bit of northern Africa, as well as much of the Levant region, which is kind of Israel, Lebanon, those areas. So it's very common to use in salads in those cultures, such as tabbouleh salad. Parsley has an umbel-shaped bloom. It's usually in chartreuse, lime, or kind of a pale yellow color, the blooms. So basically what an umbel is, botanically speaking, is it's one stalk, and then it starts to separate into multiple little branchlets, and then you get the blooms right at the very tips. They typically bloom later on into the summer, usually about August, September, and the blooms are heavily aromatic. They attract butterflies, and the seeds generally dry up into a really nice, almost like anise. You can use it as a topping. It's really good in pasta sauces, and yeah, that occurs later on in the season. So this plant here likes full sun, it likes well draining soil, it likes very neutral soil, and another thing that I really want to say is it actually does really well grown aquaponically. So if you have an aquaponic system and you grow it just in water with a little bit of fertilizer in there, it does really well. Another thing I really want to say is the more that you continuously harvest this plant, the more it comes back. Mature height of a little bit over a foot, mature spread of a little bit under 2 feet, generally speaking. If you want to dry it up, I recommend just drying the clumps and then putting them in sort of like a cardboard bag in a dark area, dark dry area. That's the best way to dry these guys. I want to talk a little bit more about starting them from seed. So they don't like to be planted too deeply in the soil. They like to be planted around half a centimeter deep, sometimes even a little bit more shallow, because they do like some light to permeate through the topsoil layer. They're notoriously slow to germinate, so be patient with these guys. It typically takes them, I want to say, about 6 weeks to sprout, so it takes them a while. They're edible right off the bat. So once they start growing these true leaves, these compound leaves, you can automatically start harvesting them so long as you keep a little bit of the roughage for it to regenerate. They don't necessarily like too much division because they have a taproot, but if you really want to divide clumps, you can divide those in September, I think is a good time to do that because they're very vegetative at that time. And just keep in mind that this is a biennial by nature, which basically means that these plants will grow for 2 years. The first year they'll start maturing. The second year, generally speaking, they'll set seed. And then once the seeds start to dry off and fall down to the ground and reseed the plant, it'll generally wither back and die. Sounds really dramatic, but it's just the life of this plant. What else should I say about basil? You want to keep it in an area of full sun that gets a little bit of dappled shade in the afternoon, just so you don't burn the leaves. I recommend bottom watering these plants just because they're susceptible to a little bit of gray mold. If you have slug damage around these plants, I recommend putting a couple of copper pennies around their base. It tends to deter the slugs. It gives them a little bit of a shock when their slime goes over it. And what else should I say? These plants this is the kind of plant that likes a really hot, dry summer. And then it tends to really like cooler but still dry winters, I think is the ideal situation for this plant. They like relatively deep containers because they do have a taproot. And if you want to coax yours into blooming, just refrain on water, sort of neglect it a little bit, keep it really, really dry. And that tends to encourage blooms if you want to harvest the seeds. The seeds typically mature around October where I live, but in areas further south where it's a little warmer, typically August is when you can collect the seeds. They're really good in soups. You can grind it down to a little powder if you start by drying the leaf matter first, and that's really good too. They're incredibly high in many, many, many different vitamins, namely, they're very high in beta carotene, but they're also high in flavonoids. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know if you guys can hear the sirens. Oh, that's kind of, sorry, I'm all over the place with this video. But yeah, they're very, very good for you. Really good as garnishes and salads too. Relatively inexpensive too. Now, I have to find my rabbit, because he's just kind of escaped on me. But I just wanted to show you guys, because he's just zipping around. I don't know if you guys can see that. Hey, bunny. But yeah, so I hope you guys stay blessed. I hope you have a wonderful day. Sorry this video was kind of a little bit all over the place, but I hope that it was informative. As always, if you guys have any questions, please just let me know. And enjoy the summer. If you're in the south, enjoy the winter. Stay blessed.